And normal was a world in which half the planet lives in poverty. We don't want to return to that. My 2-year-old grandson cannot survive in that world. Because we have to understand that for the first time in human history, we truly live on a tiny, tiny planet. It's only happened in the last decade. Never before have every human being on this planet shared the same crises. In fact, every life form. Used to be that Washington, D.C. had heat waves, and Florida had hurricanes, and San Francisco had earthquakes, and Indonesia had tsunamis, and they didn't really impact each other that much. But today, every human being on this planet, every life form, is threatened by climate change. It's threatened by species extinction, overpopulation, declining resources that are declining at an accelerating rate, increasing prices of all the essentials, food, fuels, and all the other essentials, and violence that comes out of human desperation and starvation. Every one of us, for the first time in the history of our species, is facing these same crises. Rising water levels. I was just with the Cuna in Panama yesterday. They live on islands. Their islands are disappearing. They're being flooded. And for the first time in human history, we're all talking with each other about this. Through the internet and cell phones, everybody from the highest villages in the Himalayas to those deepest in the Amazon are communicating. We know that this is going on. We know the state that we're in. And we're going to demand change. You're going to demand change. We are demanding change. People around the world are beginning to demand change. So we are at this tipping point. And I think one of the things, as I wrote this book, Hoodwinked, I kept asking myself is, what is the root cause of this problem? And the answer I came up with was actually one that Omar Torrijos, the former head of state of Panama, who was assassinated by the CIA back in 1981. Omar said to me, I was an economic hitman at the time, hired to go down and corrupt Omar, to bring him around, bring him into the system. He wouldn't buy. I couldn't corrupt him. I couldn't bring him into the system. You know, Omar said to me one time, and I write about this in Hoodwinked, I was standing on this yacht with him on Contadora Island, and I was trying desperately to get him to accept this huge World Bank loan that would put his country deep into debt, make him personally wealthy and his family, put his country deep into debt, and make them really beholden to us. And Omar said to me, Juanito, that's what he called me, Juanito, I don't need your damn money. I've got a car, I have a house, I have a good wife, I have a good life. What I need is for the people of Panama to get back the canal. What I need is for the people of Latin America to get out from under the yoke of corporate imperialism that mainly comes from your country. What I need is to see no other child on this planet starve to death, ever. And then he said, why don't you come work for me? The money won't be so good, but you'll have a good life, and you'll feel good about what you're doing. I knew that if, and I was really torn, frankly, because I liked Omar very, very much, and I liked the fact that he wouldn't give in. He gave me cause for hope, but I knew if he didn't give in, not only would I not succeed in doing my job, but the jackals would get him. The jackals overthrow governments and they assassinate leaders. They assassinated Omar shortly after that conversation. But Omar said to me, one of the things he said to me on that yacht was, he said, you know, the problem is predatory capitalism. You, in the United States, have created a new form of capitalism, predatory capitalism. And what you need to know, Juanito, he said, is that not only is it going to destroy my country, but it's going to destroy yours. And as I delved deeper into this issue and went to Iceland and looked at what caused their collapse and so on and so forth, I came more and more to the conclusion that it is. The problem is that we've adopted a mutant form of capitalism. Capitalism's been around for about 400 years. It's been a communion. It's taken many, many different forms. And Milton Friedman, a Chicago school, the University of Chicago School of Economics professor, came up with this theory that the only thing that should drive capitalism is profit, regardless of the social and environmental costs, and everything should be privatized. If everything's privatized, it'll all work. If everybody takes on lots of debt, and the guiding principle of business is profit, nothing else. Profit regardless of social and environmental costs. Friedman had this idea. It was opposed to the Keynesian idea, which had reigned for a long time before then, and nobody really took it seriously, including Nixon, who said, "I'm a Keynesian," until Ronald Reagan took the White House. And Reagan decided to embrace Milton Friedman's form of capitalism, and we've been embracing it ever since, Democrats and Republicans alike. And to me, this is the problem. It is a mutant version of capitalism. It's based completely on greed and completely on the concept that the few rich need to become richer and richer, and the rest of us be damned. And we as economic hitmen, when I was an economic hitman, my job was in essence to convince third world countries that this is what they needed to adopt. I only did that for 10 years, and then my conscience got the better of me, and I came around. But I've been trained as an economist. I've been trained as a Milton Friedman economist. And I've been trained to believe that this was the right system. But the more I worked on it, the more I visited Asia and Africa and Latin America and the Middle East, the more I understood that this was a failure. And so today what we see that we have in the world is a failed system. Thank you. When 5% of the world's population consumes 25% of the world's resources, that's a failed system. It's not a model we can hand off to the Chinese or the Indians or the Africans or the Latin Americans. Obviously, we need at least 6 more planets with all the resources this one has and no human beings living on it in order to create that model, recreate that model in other parts of the world. Can't be done. It's a failed system, and we must change it. We have to change it. If my grandson, 2 years old, is going to inherit any kind of a world that any of us would recognize, we must change it.